program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I am your host, Sarah Higdon. This is Transformative Freedom. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, so this is the week. Blair White's going to be here. We're going to have some fun. If you're in Atlanta, get your tickets. Come hang out. It's going to be a great event up here in Atlanta. So me, Blair, Andrew, we're all going to hang out. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be fun. Jumping into the stories, we like to kind of kick off the show with news from past weeks and kind of going back to talk about this story. So now the Georgia school shooter, the mother of the shooter has now said that teachers had an early warning before that day. Now we've heard multiple stuff about this. We heard that multiple schools had gotten notified that there could be a threat on the school, all that beforehand. Now apparently this shooter had texted his mom and said the morning of the shooting, it simply said, "I'm sorry." And so the shooter's mom then called the school to see if her son was okay. She reached the counselor, and the counselor said, "I wanted to let you know earlier this morning, one of the teachers had emailed them saying that he had been making references to school shootings." No, a student who had issues in the past, had been contacted by the FBI in the past for potential school shooting, like potential issues related to making threats on schools and everything like that. The school knew about this. The school then, when he was making references to school shootings, they thought that there was something there. The mom said you need to run to that classroom, make sure that her son was okay, like nothing was, because something seemed to be possibly imminent. And then about 30 minutes after the phone call is when the school shooting started. Apparently, when they got to the classroom, there was another student by the same name. There were some mix-ups there, but they did try to find the class, but they found the wrong boy with a similar name. So, and then led to what we know now. No other real news on the story as of today, but it's still ongoing. The charges are out there. The dad's being charged as well, like we talked about last week. So we'll see what happens there. The next thing, so there is another story. This is an interesting one. There is an Iraq war veteran was charged this week. So this is the Daily Wire. Cassie, it used to be Cassie Dillon. Cassie Avika is her name now. So if you didn't see what happened, I posted about this last week. This was later last week. So they were having a pro-Israel rally, and a anti-Israel protester came up, was yelling at the crowd from across the street. He then charged across the street, tackled this man, Scott Hayes, as Scott was on the ground, he pulled out his pistol and shot, I think, just one round in the attacker. And because he defended himself, seems like a clear case of self-defense. On your back, person's attacking you. Seems like a clear case for self-defense. But because it's in Newton, Massachusetts, he was then charged. He was then arrested and charged for shooting a man who tackled him. To charges of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. So because of this, he is required to wear a GPS ankle monitor and abide by a curfew that will only allow him to work as a contractor. See, this is the issue that we have in this country right now. Like he's the one that's attacked, and yet he's charged because he's carrying a firearm. And again, it's Massachusetts. And this is why somebody like Thomas Massey has to go out and then try to pass a bill, a national constitutional carry bill that says you can carry because of your Second Amendment right anywhere in this country. It's time we start recognizing that you should be able to defend yourself anywhere in this country. This is the reason why I don't like going to blue states. I go to blue states for different events and stuff like that, but going to these places is scary because if you do carry and then you have to use your self-defense, then you are then charged because you were attacked. It's like you're the victim of a crime, yet you're being charged. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't care what this guy was protesting for or against. He has the right to defend himself either way. I don't care that it's anti-Israel. It could be any issue. It could be any issue, even if I disagreed with what his issue was that he was protesting for or against. You had the right to defend yourself. You had the right to free speech. This person was actually trying to take away their right to the First Amendment. So now they're basically saying that this person doesn't have a right to the First or Second Amendment. It's like, make that make sense. I don't get it. Another interesting story last week, which was kind of funny, not long after the debate. President Biden visited a fire station where he he basically got trolled by every single person in there. It was kind of hilarious. And the people there actually got him to put on a Trump hat. If you saw this picture, yeah, it was real. And again, it was like right after the debate. Like, the fact that he put the Trump hat on. So he did speak about the country's bipartisan unity after 9/11, and so we need to get back to that. And as a gesture, he gave a hat to the Trump supporter, who then in the same spirit gave him his Trump cap, which President Biden put on. And I really think that, though, that this is just the happenings of a person who just really doesn't care anymore. His political career, his career in general, he's about to retire in a couple months, and he just isn't. He's not going to care anymore. So he's going to do whatever. He's going to have a good time. And I actually don't even really think he's running the country anymore. He's just the person that they have propped in until January to when the next president takes over. Yeah, you're right, James. And then he put it on top of a hat that he was already wearing. And then there was this picture with all these kids. All the kids. they're all wearing like Trump shirts and stuff like that, and taking a picture with him. So it was interesting. I just don't think he cares. Um, and then at the 9/11 anniversary, it was interesting because there's been a few videos where you see Biden, Harris walk in, other Democrats walk in, do other stuff, and then to like no avail. And then when Trump walks in, there's these huge applause and everything like that. So it was an interesting week. The anniversary of 9/11 was last week, obviously, and that's what they were all kind of doing. But next on the list, so I went this weekend to see Matt Walsh's "What Is a Woman," or not "What Is a Woman," in my racist film. I actually enjoy. So it's interesting because it's cool to see these types of films now in theaters, so you can go and actually watch them on the silver screen in your movie theater, by your house, everything like that. It was pretty cool. But in where I go to the movies, we have nice reclining seats. You can have a beer, everything like that. It was good. I didn't have to watch it from the house. I didn't have to pay for anything other than the ticket to the film. So it was really good. Now, I thought it was a very well done film, just like What Is a Woman was well done. What Is a Woman was a little bit different though, and in so far as Matt did not, and this was very much the same way. Matt didn't like inject his own personal like biases in it, other than be a sarcasm, everything like that. My only critique was that he almost interrupted and played the character too much. So there was points in the movies where the leftist that the pretty famous leftist that he was able to get in front of, where they were saying some pretty crazy stuff, and then he like interrupted them when they were saying some pretty crazy stuff, which is like you almost wish he would have just let them keep going, let them continue to spout their nonsense. um the group scene at the very beginning is one where I would critique that the most. um the one where they actually figured out that it was him. But I guess that may have been part of the, you know, part of what they wanted to do to tell the story the way that they did, to put him in disguise and everything like that. But I don't know. I just thought there could have been more that would have exposed what they actually thought if he hadn't interrupted. But all in all, I think it was a really good film. I mean, he was able to get so in response to the film, like all these woke leftists who are these race baiting leftists that teach this anti DEI stuff, they all basically deleted their Twitter accounts, which is interesting. Which I can see why, because it really exposed them for being the, I guess, grifters, as you could say, that they are. And so as you see, like, but then Robin DiAngelo comes and puts she responded to being deceived by Matt Walsh and the film. So she said in her statement, um, where is it? She says that she was essentially duped, feeling uneasy about the interview as it went on, claims she could see that Walsh was wearing an ill-fitting wig, and that from now on she'd be way more careful about who she would speak to when requests were made. Even Walsh's well-funded one at $15,000. That's what they paid. Like, I think one of the most effective things that they did is show you how much they had to pay these people to speak on these issues and how well funded they are. But she said, back in 2023, I was contacted by a group who claimed to be making a documentary film called Shades of Justice about efforts to address racism in the United States. They plan to interview anti-racist activists, authors, and thought leaders and services supporting the cause. They offered me 10 to 20,000 for an interview. I said, let's meet in the middle with 15,000 and agreed to participate. She knows that since becoming aware of the circumstances, she had since donated the fund to the NCAACP legal fund. When I arrived for the interview, a few things felt off. Though she appeared perfectly comfortable on camera, the gripes would not make eye contact with me. In the interview, who was introduced as Matt appeared to be wearing an ill-fitted wig. Matt presented himself as someone new to the anti-racist work and seemed earnest, and his questions did not come across as adversarial. By the end, however, things got weird, and then she goes on to discuss when he asked her about reparations, and what she thought about reparations, and she said, "Oh, I thought reparations were kind of like a systemic thing, so not like me paying individuals reparations, but as the system would pay those reparations, right?" But it was kind of funny that she got paid $15,000 to do this as a white woman speaking on black issues, right? And then gave $30 to the black man that was sitting next to her. It was kind of ironic. So it was interesting. Now, on top of that, you had anti-racist author Sarah Rowe and Regina Jackson, who claimed that they were conned into appearing in the Matt Walsh's fascist Nazi white supremacist film Am I Racist? Now, I can see why they wouldn't want to be associated with this film. I really can. Because they were truly duped. Because I can tell you, if anybody came across the worst in this film, it was Ciara Rowe. Some of the things that she says to this group of white people was pretty bad. The things that she says about this country makes me wonder why she would want to stay in this country. But it was pretty damaging. And I can see why after the film came out, they would delete their Twitter accounts. Because yeah, Roe did not come across very well at all. And I don't want to like lead into any spoilers on it. And that's why I'm kind of being vague with it. But it's always so funny, because that's kind of the way that, I mean, that's how What Is a Woman turned out pretty well. That's how this one turned out really well. And John, I wouldn't say it's necessarily satirical, because it's not. Yes, Walsh plays a satirical character in the film, but it's just showing people what it's taking people in their own words. I think actually one of the best parts of the film actually showed when he went to the biker bar and spoke to a lot of, who you would see as more right-leaning people. There was it was on the sign on the outside, it said all veterans welcome, all this stuff. And it was just people like, why would I care? Like he was asking questions, and they were like, why would I care what your skin color is? Why would I why would why would that make a difference to me? And so it's like when you're talking to the leftist who have this racism of low expectations compared to um, the people that you would consider to be conservatives, just being more colorblind in the way that we were raised to be. um it was interesting to really take note of all of that, that the left truly has this I am better than you white savior attitude, whereas people more so, I guess, that you would assume would be on the right have this I don't care who you are or what you do or any of that stuff. Just leave me alone and don't hurt me and don't take my stuff type of attitude. That's kind of the way that it came across to me. But I would just implore everybody. It's a good movie. Go support it. I would just say go watch it. Even if you're not like a fan of the Daily Wire or Matt Walsh, I get it. Me and Matt have our differences. Matt's quite the character. Has a lot of hardline views that I don't agree with. I don't agree with all of the Daily Wire. But the thing about it is they are the thing that the Daily Wire is doing is getting these movies now into movie theaters, getting movie theaters to take note of alternative media that you know kind of setting the tone and showing that small productions like this can actually get into these massive theaters and across the country and do well, which we need more of. We need that the counter economy, the parallel economy. I'm sorry, because otherwise we just get stuck with all the leftist branded stuff from Hollywood. So, yeah, it was a fun movie. So now going on to our top story of the day, of the weekend, really. So if you did not know, yesterday there was a second assassination attempt on the former president Donald Trump's life. Okay. Um, Essentially what happened, he was playing golf at his resort at Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach when apparently, so I have the video from the police officer, but I'll just kind of explain it here. What happened is he's playing golf. They have Secret Service who goes the hole ahead to make sure that it's all clear, everything like that, to make sure that he's safe when he goes to the next hole ahead. So that's kind of what they do when the presidents are playing golf. Well, when the Secret Service agent gets across to the next hole, he actually the whole golf course is surrounded by bushes. I mean, he saw a rifle barrel sticking out of the bushes and subsequently engaged um shot at the person that was holding the rifle. Now, they said he was like 300 to 500 yards, which I mean, the first attempt was like 100 yards away, but 3 to 500 yards is not that far when you have a rifle and a scope. Now, depending on the type of rifle that you have. Now, they say he had an AK-47. Now, that's not necessarily going to be something you're going to try to shoot accurately with. So, it's not something that you're actually going to you're not going to like use that as like a sniper rifle. Okay? I mean, I've seen it. I've seen them use AK-47s kind of as sniper rifles, but those are more spray and pray weapons. They're not the most accurate rifle out there. But they engaged. He took off. He was subsequently actually apprehended by local police and arrested. So yeah, let's see. There are so many ways that this story is kind of crazy and kind of goes down this whole rabbit hole though, right? Because again, the person who did this in 2020 has been on the news, has been like kind of all over this stuff. He there's a actually I think I had the video. Let me see. I thought I had this video. I guess not. So there's a video of him in he was once in a pro-Ukraine video, like talking about, and it was just really a weird. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it was in a propaganda video. Let me see.
Course of the action is to appeal to both leaders.
For Ukraine, like that's him right
What
there.
organization?
It was from a rally in Kiev to support the Azov Battalion, which was released in 2022. So apparently this guy has ties to the government because he went to Ukraine to help fight in Ukraine and has tried to get more people from over here to go over there and fight against the Russians, and that's been kind of his advocacy. And in a 2023 memoir about how Ukraine must win the unwinnable war, he actually advocated exactly for this to happen. He advocated for the Iranians to do it. He says, I presume that it must be clear that while the current path Ukraine will not win, it is imperative for the world that they do win. And it is important. It is why this book is for us to recognize that losing is not an option and that we must win. And then there's more on this book. Let me see. Okay. So you can see some of this. We elect our next president that ended up being brainless, but I am man enough to say that I misjudged and made a terrible mistake, and I apologize. He says, you are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment and the dismantling of the deal. So he's talking about the Iranian nuclear deal that Obama set up that Trump got rid of. He's actively promoting that the Iranians do this. Says no one here in the U.S. seems to have the balls to put natural selection to work or even unnatural selection. The guy was obviously very highly invested in the Ukraine war, the Ukraine war. Wanted to win at all costs. He talks a lot about in these pages that we have on here. He talks about advocating that the U.S. give the Ukrainians all of their nuclear weapons back with the promise that they will use and launch all of them, so that way they don't have any more left. basically it's all about why this war is so, like, why Ukraine winning is so important and how it's the only thing that basically mattered to him. And he was deeply disturbed and radical, right? Where this takes an interesting turn, right? So after this happens yesterday, the media they go full bore. But the interesting thing about the media, they started blaming Donald Trump, his own rhetoric, for causing this. They started blaming him for, essentially causing this. And it's really crazy because obviously when you look at a lot of leftist rhetoric after the last attempt, a lot of people saying that they wish that the person had better aim, wishing, there was a lot of people that didn't have any remorse, that didn't condemn the violence, condemn what happened. There was a lot of people that praised what happened, and yet they're saying that what they did is they have this trick, right, to where they don't outright say Donald Trump is to blame. That would be like saying, a girl who got raped was her fault because, she was wearing something wrong. No, what they do is so what then they do is then wait, you guys are getting a ton of ads right now? Maybe it's something I set up wrong for this one. I'm sorry. But then so then what they do is they say, this happened, but then they automatically jump into a diatribe about them talking about eating cats and dogs in Ohio, which is then pretty much a red flag to be like, it's really them just kind of brushing off the assassination attempt and blaming the rhetoric from Donald Trump. Now, then what gets even more interesting is you have somebody like Alexander Vindman, who, if you don't know who this is, so Alexander Vindman he's the former Intel analyst who was a key witness in the Trump the impeachment, when Donald Trump asked Ukraine to give him information on what Hunter Biden was doing in Ukraine, and that was key to that. Now, again, Vindman works in intelligence. Well, him and his wife, the last day or so, have basically been not downplaying or outright justifying the actions of this shooter. So here's one tweet where he says, only one presidential candidate has called for the persecution of violence against his opponents. Persecution and violence. Now, Donald Trump has not called for violence against any of his political opponents. Let's be clear about that. Trump has provided the permission for political violence and likely endangered from the mentally ill the attacks on himself. So blaming. This is clear cut victim blaming. we don't need to go back to that chaos. Now, you go on this guy's page, and again, now, you scroll down. Actually, let me see. Did he delete all his posts? Yeah, I mean, he rage tweeted about Donald Trump for like the last 24 hours since the assassination attempt. His wife was one of the first that posted. What was hers that quoted saying, "No ears were harmed in this. Carry on with your day." She deleted hers, saying it happened in a fit of, of online tweeting, whatever it was that she said, but she deleted hers. But he's kept his up, basically saying that for my family, MAGA extremism and Donald Trump are personal. They incited violence against us time and time again. Now, listen. Vindman and the federal government, the CIA, are heavily involved in what's going on in Ukraine right now. Somebody who was also directly involved in all of that tried to assassinate the former president of the United States. Obviously, we don't have any direct connections to them yet. But as I told Vindman on Twitter, his ramblings sound like the ramblings of somebody who has such a grudge against somebody that he would have hired somebody to conduct that act. Can't say for sure. Personal feelings. This is not the ramblings over the last 24 hours of a man who is mentally sane, who continues to justify political violence against Donald Trump. But we shall see. Will they actually investigate this to its fullest? We don't know. We'll see. So what else do I have? But then in response to this too, we have this video that the campaign had posted that the campaign posted this too to kind of combat this whole notion that Trump is responsible for this because of his rhetoric, while they completely forget about their own rhetoric against the former president. So here.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish.
I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
That you cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
President Walker, how do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
When they go low, we kick them.
Please get up in the face of some Congress people.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
It's good. It's a good ad. I mean, when you look at the rhetoric, and you look at it on both sides, and this is kind of what I look at. I don't condone political violence, and you look at the rhetoric on both sides for the most part. It's gotten quite heated, and it probably should tone it down a little bit, but only one side is saying to tone it down, and it's the side that's going against the side that has had their candidate now targeted twice for assassination attempts. You'll never see the left condoning their own. Again, we saw after the last assassination attempt, many people on the left, wishing the person had succeeded. And we just look at that and we go, where does that get us? What does that make us as people? These people that are blaming down Trump's rhetoric without looking at their own rhetoric is insane to me, because the internet is real. The internet is forever. We know that forever. Like, we know that what they say is on camera. We can pull it up and show it to them, and they will justify it. And at the same breath, they then go and say, I mean, these are the same people who were after the immunity for official acts were then saying that now Biden could send SEAL Team 6 in to assassinate Trump. They were the people on the left were the ones that were posting that type of stuff after the court ruling. And yet now they're trying to project those feelings onto Donald Trump, saying that he's to blame and that he's the one that has said these types of things. But the problem is, honestly, Ronnie, you make a good point. Will people on the left watch that ad or scroll past it? I think this is something that we need to look at on both sides, though. Like, I think if you've watched this show for a long enough period of time, I'm willing to, criticize both sides. I'm a libertarian. I don't necessarily believe 100% with anybody. But when I see, I try to call them like I see them. And when you look at the extremes, they don't see what they're doing as wrong. Like I said, projection is real when it comes to a lot of this political discourse. Like, those people will say, yes, it was, in the context that I said it, it made sense that we said, you should go and harass Congress people, get up in their face, which is incitement, right? It's advocating for somebody to go do that. And then when somebody does go do that, and then, I mean, again, with somebody with as many ties, it just seems so coincidental. It almost seems like the deep state's not even trying in a lot of ways, right? It just seems so coincidental that somebody with such deep ties to the government, such deep ties to the CIA, and we don't know. Again, we don't know if he's got deep ties to the CIA, but is very tied to Ukrainian government. Now, again, which brings up another point. This may not have been our deep state, but the globalist deep state. Whereas when you look at the Ukrainian government, did the Ukrainian government have any ties to this? We don't know. But these are the questions that people need to be asking, because it just seems very suspect that this person, and apparently he's been brought up on many charges. He was once arrested for having a machine gun, an illegal machine gun. That he was able to still get a firearm and all this stuff. And a lot of times what they do is they give plea deals for stuff, and then they send them to be informants for them, or they send them to Ukraine to go fight in Ukraine. Like, that's his big thing. So he's going a little bit crazy. So why not go fight in Ukraine? But then he comes here, and maybe he's been radicalized over there by their people, and then they come over here, and he sees Donald Trump as the biggest threat to ending the Ukraine war. And he hears all this rhetoric, and now all this stuff is blaming Donald Trump for his own, a person attempting to assassinate him. All that does is inspire more people to attempt this stuff, because now people will see them as a martyr instead of the evil that they are, or the crazy that they are. But again, I mean, if it's not somebody like Vindman, who has ties to Ukraine and in the CIA and intel assets, what is stopping the Ukrainian government from trying to perpetuate this? But I mean, what that clip right there didn't actually show is, think about this for a second too. Like, the US government, if all these people are calling Donald Trump literally Hitler, they're calling MAGA Nazis, they're saying they're fascists, they're Nazis, and even Tim Walz says that he is going to put people in danger. If you think that somebody is literally Hitler, literally one of the most evil men to walk the earth, and then you have these thought exercises, right? So generally, as we've gone through life, we hear these thought exercises that say, would it be morally right or wrong if you could go back in time and kill Hitler? Would that be morally right or wrong? So when you start to think about, when they start to compare somebody like Donald Trump to Hitler, and then start asking these thought exercises, what are they actually doing? It's incitement. It is free speech, but it is incitement. And you can't have the moral high ground when you are doing the same thing to the other side. You can't be a morally just person and condemn the rhetoric. So if you're on the right and you're condemning the rhetoric of these leftists, as you should, you also can't be morally right if you don't also condemn the same type of rhetoric on your side. That's hypocritical. So yeah. Let me see. And actually, here's a good snapshot of the Trump campaign. They actually put this out. This is a long list of the rhetoric that the left has continuously spread like this. So let's see. Kamala Harris repeatedly, Trump is a threat to our democracy and fundamental freedoms. It is on us to recognize the threat Trump possesses. Does one of us have to come out alive? That was the clip I played, right? It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to this nation. There is one existential threat. It's Donald Trump. I mean, continue. Tim Walz. Are Republicans a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Nancy Pelosi. Is Trump threat to our democracy of the kind that we have not seen, or Trump is a threat to our democracy in the kind we have not seen. MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. Dan Goldman, I saw this one earlier. He is destructive to our democracy and he has to be eliminated, is what he said. Trump is an existential, urgent threat to our democracy. Liz Cheney, Trump presents a fundamental threat to the republic, and we are seeing it on a daily basis. Enemy. Preparing a civil war. Trump is connected with who are training up in the hills somewhere. Existential threat. Gravest threat. Existential threat. The greatest threat to our democracy. What unifies us as a party is knowing Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to our democracy. The threats to our democratic republic are real. Trump and his extreme right-wing followers possess existential threat to our democracy. We cannot underestimate the threat Trump poses to America. An extreme danger, an existential threat, a threat. Representative Stacey Plaskett, Trump needs to be shot. Remove the national threat from office. The threat is not over. Existential threat. Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project. They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in. Turn their fire on Donald Trump. So this was the tweet that was deleted yesterday from Rachel Vindman. No ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon. This is right after the attempt. So literally right after the attempt. Hakeem Jeffries, we must stop Trump. This really seems to be a confluence of two very bad things going on in the Republican Party. The attempts to divide to enrage the populace. Again, blaming Trump for what happened. The last thing America needs was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. State Representative Steve Woodrow said that. And then Lester Holt. Today's apparent assassination attempts comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail. Mr. Trump, his running mate, J.D. Vance, continue to make baseless claims. Again, blaming the victim of this. So, look, I would love to see the rhetoric on both sides be toned down. Yes, we all kind of get into this political back and forth, but nothing should be justified if it comes to politically threatening an opponent. There should be, we should not be advocating violence for any reason whatsoever. But here we are. And let's hope and pray that, that I'm just gonna say let's hope that Donald Trump is safe, because there are some powerful people who seem to want him gone. They want him, and they're willing to do just about anything to make that happen. Twice in 2 months. It's kind of crazy. We are living in a crazy time. So yeah. Another story, I mean, this is just as crazy, talking about the debate last week, right? I don't know what's going on with CNN, but they seem to have found this thing called journalism. They actually did a really good job yesterday when it came to the reporting accurately on the it was MSNBC mostly that was reporting the blaming Donald Trump. CNN actually seemed to be pretty accurate in the reporting on the assassination attempt. But then they also, I mean, we've talked about them quite a bit on this show, how they've seemingly turned against the Democrats, and they've seemingly turned against the Harris campaign. Like this week, they went after the Kamala HQ, which is the political, it's like the media wing of the campaign, as they say it. But they've gone and they've fact checked the account and all of the things that it has continued to push on this account. So like misleading, describing a Trump comment about his supporters on August 17th. They posted Trump had gotten confused about what state he was in. Trump would be with, so they were talking about, he was talking to some people in North Carolina. He was in Pennsylvania, but he was talking to the people that were in the front row from North Carolina, also understanding that his stuff is broadcast to the entire country usually, so he's going to kind of speak to everybody, right? They tried to say that he was confused and lost. CNN fact checked them on this. But this was a lot. Like they fact checked like this whole, like a lot on this account, and this account continuously posts all the false data. Like they say, like, you know, them saying, like, during the debate, they would say all the stuff that they've said about Donald Trump over the years, Project 2025, which is not his plan, but they will continue to spout that it's his plan. And then let me see. It's more of that not knowing his location. Where is some of this? Oh, they continuously deceptively clip and mislead about the Charlottesville remark, you know, the people on both sides. And they literally said, like, he says nothing was done wrong. No, he didn't say nothing was done wrong. He's in the 10-second clip of Trump telling reporters at a Friday event in California, like on Project 25, I have no idea about, had nothing to do with me. And he didn't correct her. He knew that. Charlottesville, nothing was done wrong. That's what they posted. But the full video of Trump's California comments are that they deceptively cut and clipped right before Trump made clear he was not claiming that neo-Nazis in Charlottesville did nothing wrong, or murder of that incident was not wrong. Rather, the full video shows he was arguing that he did nothing wrong with his very fine people on both sides comments in 2017, which he has repeatedly insisted was not about white nationalists. And they pushed that at the debate. It's the whole point of bringing this up is that the media and CNN in general, maybe they're realizing that going left has been bad for business. Getting back to doing actual journalism like this stuff might actually help bring them back. Oh, I'm losing my voice. So yeah, actually. Okay. So maybe they'll realize that'll bring them back, but who knows? Another clip. This is probably not what you want to do. Let's just play it.
This is going to be a battle for the next 52 days. It's going to be in rooms, just like this. It's going to be one door to door, call to call, $5 donation. trying to have that hard conversation in the produce aisle with the person you saw there at the grocery store and ask, have you voted yet?
Don't approach me in the produce aisle. I'm not going to talk to you. And if you continue to push, I'm going to not be so nice. Do not talk to people in the produce section. Most people just want to go on with their days and not worry about politics like this. This is exactly like, honestly, if somebody came up to me in the produce aisle and said, have you voted yet? I think you should vote for this person. But you don't know who the fuck I am. Don't talk to me. I'm not going to, like, seriously, don't approach people in the produce aisle. Don't approach random people and try to talk politics. Most people don't care. Or they care, but they don't want to be bothered in their everyday life. Just don't. I posted the meme to this where it's like the guy like mansplaining in the woman's face, because that's what this comes across as. Don't do it. I'm just gonna say, don't do it. On to the next, almost last. Kamala Harris still doesn't have like plans. This is how she answered in the debate, and then again, how she answered. How are you? What are your? She tried to go off on Trump for saying I have concepts of plans to bring this stuff down. When he said, what are your specific plans to bring prices down? She said this.
Bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people. Yeah. What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was a...
Okay. She doesn't go on to answer it at all. So, yeah. And then one of the other things in the debate, and this is my post with Outspoken, you can see it there. But one of the other things in the debate that they said that they thought was kind of like, it was so funny because Trump brought this up, and then the leftists kind of came and like were making fun that he said this because they thought it was so absurd that there's no way Kamala Harris actually believes in this, and they were making fun of it. And then it turns out to be true. So it's so absurd to the leftists that they're laughing at it, but then it turns out to be true. So here.
Supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this.
Oh. Yes, you heard that right. Kamala Harris supports using the money that they take from you to pay for gender transitions for illegal immigrants who are detained. And even CNN had to question if that was real because of how absurd that sounds. But that's not the only time that she has supported using taxpayer money for inmates to receive transition treatments. She boasted about getting the policy changed in California so that trans people could get elective treatments in jail.
I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired.
And look, private insurance can cover what they want or should be able to without government involvement. And inmates who have surgeries to remove reproductive organs prior to being incarcerated will need HRT. But in no way should the government ever be paying for elective surgeries or starting them on hormones. We would never allow female inmates to get breast implants, so why would we let males, let alone pay for them? Makes no sense, right? We should not be taking the tax money that they take from you to pay for this type of stuff. And it was so absurd, they questioned it. It was so absurd that the rest of the leftists after the debate, when Trump brought it up, said it wasn't happening. They thought it was so absurd that he would even say that. Like, where did that even come from? Well, guess what? She said it. She advocated for it. She made sure they changed the policy in California. If it's absurd to you, if it sounds absurd, and then she's doing it, maybe, just maybe you switch off that position. But with that, I just want to thank you all for joining. Again, if you're in Atlanta, come out on Thursday, hang out with me and Blair and Andrew. It's going to be a good time. If not, make sure you tell your friends about the channel. We're growing. We're going to continue to push forward and bring top quality content. I'm looking forward to doing possibly more stuff, do some more interviews here in the future. Hopefully do some interviews and stuff in the future. Kind of expand what I'm doing here already as always. But so make sure, if you haven't already, you click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.